Talofa lava, kia ora, and welcome back to What's in Your Kete, the podcast where we share stories from across Moana Nui a Kiwa. I'm super excited to introduce my son, Taylor. Both he and I will be hosting alternate episodes for What's in Your Kete. Over to you, Tama.
Kia ora, ko Taylor tēnei. I'm excited to be hosting my first episode of the podcast and to introduce today's guest, Leilani Faaiuaso. Manuia whawhitai, let's get into things.
So, talofa, malo soifua to everyone listening. Olo uingo o Leilani Liz Faaiuaso. I am proud Samoan, representing 685 everywhere I go, from the villages of Salelolonga, Leolumuenga, Luatuanu'u, Ma'awhalealupo. And that's all my grandparents migrated from Samoa to New Zealand around the 1960s. My parents were born in Palmerston North, and then in the 1990s, they decided to move up to Auckland, continuing the migrant dream and journey of finding better opportunities for future generations. I was proudly born in Green Lane Women's Hospital, the proper hospital for all the cool kids. But yeah, was raised in Manurewa, South Auckland. Proud alumni of Manurewa Central School, whoop whoop, and yeah, so that's my I guess my whakapapa or my ancestry and where I come from. To sum up my family, I honestly stand on the shoulders of them. They are my giants. They epitomize what greatness is to me because they served before I even learned what service was. So growing up, service to me was just a natural thing. My grandparents were huge, played a huge part in the community in terms of their leadership in church. My grandparents, on my dad's side, my dad's parents were deacons of the Whakasa Church here in Palmerston North. My grandpa and my grandma, mum's parents, were the founding pastors of Samoan AOG here in Palmerston North, and also helped out around the other branches. So definitely a legacy of leadership, but also service and a lot of love. My parents, when growing up, were the leaders of Life Church's choir, the OGs, which is really cool. And I watched them leave me at the babysitter's house while they went to go lead in church. And so I definitely was surrounded by amazing inspirational leaders who I saw led with such big hearts and such big dreams. And because of that, had a community around me that helped raise me as well. So growing up in Manurewa, was surrounded by many kids with such amazing potential and talents and opportunities. We were blessed to have amazing teachers who had also helped raise me. And one day, my auntie Camilla came across my mum and said, "Look, there's all these schools that offer all these scholarships for Pacific kids. Why don't you let your daughter go into one?" And mum looked at the board, chose St. Cuthbert's, and it was all go from there. So as well as being a South Auckland girly, also part Central Auckland girly, going to St. Cuthbert's College in Epsom. But yeah, now here in Palmerston North, we decided to make the move after I graduated high school in 2020. And that was to be closer with my grandparents. So I moved down here also for studying and being close with my family. And this is where I really connected with my roots and realized what a huge legacy my family has. And that also really played into my why of why I serve, why I do what I do, because like I said before, I watched them serve from a very young age. I watched them lead. And from there, I learned what it meant to lead a godly life, but also one that's selfless in doing things, I guess. I don't do things for gaining recognition or getting all these awards, but every opportunity is truly for giving back to my communities and being the representation that I wish I saw. It doesn't mean that it's easy, but it means that hopefully from what I do, it gets better. And that's just a small part that I play in my community.
What was the move like from Manurewa to Palmerston North?
I will admit, I do admit now that I was that Aucklander that literally thought Auckland was the world and that Auckland was New Zealand and there was nowhere else in New Zealand. And coming to Palmy, I was like, this is a small town. And my brother always used to correct me and go, it's a city. So I'm now proud to say I'm a humble Palmestonian, proud to call Palmy home. Wasn't initially, honestly thought Palmy was like the small town that I never heard of. But coming back and realizing, my roots, connecting to my grandparents and just spending time with my family was really key to my journey, my growth, and my development in terms of, realizing those legacies. For my grandpa, for example, with Samoan AOG, I never realized half the things that he did or who he was really until he passed away last year. And my nana, the same, who passed away last year as well. They had such big lives and legacies that they lived out, but also left behind, that I never truly understood until coming down here, but also serving and realizing their legacies after they've passed. So, Palmy was really integral to my journey. And coming from Auckland, I was just like, what's here for me? Especially because having gone to St. Cuthbert's, having all these opportunities lined up in Auckland, the last thing you'd expect me to do is go back down to the regions. But for me, I was really following God's plan and also just wanting to connect with my grandparents and spend those years with them. And choosing that for me was the best opportunity. So, how I found it really tough, to be honest. But now it's like I wouldn't regret it. I wouldn't change the decision for anything. It's really been so amazing to connect to my culture, connect to my family, and realize that what I say now is the size of a city never determines the opportunities that you get. It's the people, it's the connections who make it what I call home. And so I've been very privileged to rep Palmy on the stage, to show Palmy to the world, but not only meaning that I'm Palmy, but Palmy is a huge community that I've been a part of and been privileged to call home now.
Can you share about how faith is important to you and to the journey that you're on?
Faith has always been an integral part of who I am and who my family are. God has moved in many ways for us, and we're so grateful for His blessings and continual love and favor. My grandparents were very strong in the faith, and I saw that not only through their love and preachings to us, but also through their love and preachings to others. My grandpa, being a key example to me, would always have this sheet of paper where he'd pick a number from the sheet every day and go, who do I call? And those kind of fellowship acts and acts of service and love to check up on people, to not only pastor in the church but also pastor in our communities, to me spoke volumes of who he was and who God had called him to be. And I guess from that, seeing my parents' journey, my parents, I forgot to mention, were they're both the piano players for their respective churches. So funny that dad came from Efakasa and mum came from Samoan AOG, and they married and had kids. So clash of the churches, but love story came from it. So I'm so grateful for them and their service growing up. They went to a Balangi church, so Life Church, when we went to Auckland, and that was their decision that I'm really grateful for, to have been raised in a church like Life, to have set a strong foundation for myself as well. So they played a huge part in terms of seeing what service was like through using God's talents and God's gifts for His glory. So I'm so grateful that they taught me that and that wisdom. And then I think for me myself, coming back down here, we're now at Equippers, Palmerston North. So grateful to not only have my community in the local areas, but also have a church community that we can also call home and call family. And everyone in our churches across all of them are still like family to me now. So definitely God first always. God has been amazing, but through God we've also had many amazing people that have come into our lives that have helped me become the woman I am today.
Can you talk about your extended family and about any support systems you have in place?
Yeah, I have a wider family for sure. And unlike our typical Samoan families, my dad's side isn't too big. I've just got the brother and who's my cousin, but we call each other brothers because we grew up, and my younger sister who's doing amazing things. Very proud of her. And then on my mum's side, I've got heaps of cousins, heaps of aunties and uncles. That's a big family over that side. Um, but my main support system, I would say, is my parents, my papa, my dad's dad, my sister, my cat, Chappie. Moral support, always that one. Um, shout out Chappie. And my auntie Epe, who's been a real key mentor to me these past few years, my dad's sister, my auntie Philo and Dean, and did I miss anyone? Oh yeah, some of the aunties and uncles on my mum's side as well. Um, but so grateful, for their love and support. Definitely, um, I don't just have one family, but many families, even families that aren't families are like families to me. So there's heaps of people that I could name. The list would go on. But yeah, so grateful for the collective love, solidarity, efforts, and support that has been invested into me, as well as the petrol sacrifices, time, leave off work. Definitely come from a huge village, and so grateful that I stand here not alone, but with them in every space I go.
Can you talk about your double degree and what inspired you to get into the study fields of business management and psychology?
No, thank you. I'll start off with just quickly about uni, because I think, for our Pacific youth, especially nowadays, we always face a lot of pressure about university. I was very privileged, like I said, to go to St. Cuthbert's College, and from that had many opportunities open up, and have always been passionate about learning. Loved asking questions, loved school. Was really grateful and blessed to have thrived in the academic space from a young age. So for me, going to uni was um, a natural step for me, but I know that it's not always for everyone. And so, ended up at Massey, decided to do a double degree because in my final year of school, I participated in the Young Enterprise scheme, shout out Young Enterprise, and did a mental health business in the pandemic 2020, selling mental health hoodies for our communities and our schools. And it actually took off really, really well. And we did and some amazing work with me and the team. I was so grateful to have that opportunity. But through that, realized I was really good at business. I wanted to continue doing it, but I wanted to do something else that may not have been something that I would have thought of. And given that we did mental health hoodies, I was kind of invested into mental health and really interested to find out more. Hadn't had much experience about it growing up. So to me, it was a new thing to learn. I thought, why do one when you can do 2 degrees for just an extra year? I never wanted to limit the opportunity to learn more. So that's why I decided to study that. And from that, um, I never let myself stay within those 2 degrees or schools. I attended a couple of politics events, took a politics paper. I also did a summer scholarship in my second year under Professor Regina Shavens and Dr. Api Salome Movono. Very privileged to have the opportunity in development studies. Just had so many amazing opportunities within my degrees, but also beyond them.
Congratulations on hosting your first TED Talk earlier this year. Could you talk about what that experience was like for you?
Thank you. Honestly, it was the most buzzy experience ever. Um, Growing up, I used to do speeches really well in primary school. I thought I was the coolest person on the block. And then recently, I've just been getting these major, I don't know, like anxiety attacks or like panic attacks, whether it's on stage, on the tables in the boardrooms, or just when it comes to a really emotional or passionate topic, I was just overcome by like shaking and I literally could not stop it. But as soon as I'd sit down, it'd be gone. And it took a real big hit on my confidence. And it has been a goal of mine actually this year was to just get over it and overcome those fears of public speaking because I knew that I was better than that, but for some reason the mind body was just not cooperating. I'd been on this cultural reconnection journey since moving to Palmerston North and learning more about my grandparents and my heritage. But this year, I had the privilege of serving in many spaces and then had a good friend, Arthi, who reached out and was like, girl, you should do this opportunity. It was never a goal of mine to be a TEDx speaker or to do a TED talk. And initially, I actually wanted to speak about success and how to be successful. And, kind of reflected on it, had to change my topic and ended up choosing a really, really vulnerable topic about cultural imposter syndrome, which, if you haven't heard the term before, is basically like not feeling like you're enough to belong to your culture. And that's literally my life story. And that was what I experienced growing up and still experience to this day, was just, being a Aotearoa born Samoan, not feeling like I was Samoan enough, but also I was obviously not Palangi enough because I'm brown. But if I wasn't Samoan enough, then who was I? And always questioning those things throughout my life. But sharing that story this year has been such a testament to my journey. Not only was I talking about this TED talk, but I'd actually lived it out. And the theme was rewrite the narrative, but I literally rewrote who I was, but also lived that out. So leading up to the TED talk, had many opportunities to represent my culture, both here and overseas. And just like doing Siva Samoa, speaking the Samoan language, Ngangana Samoa more, was just like so cool to see myself like go from calling myself a plastic Samoan in high school to now waving the flag in Palmy Council when it came to passing the Pasifika Hub, which is now in the long-term plan. And, I just look at that journey and I think, wow, like that is so cool. And so doing that TED talk was such an amazing opportunity. Overcame the jitters, no jitters at all. So thank you, Jesus. That was so cool. And I know it's already inspired many of our Pacific youth, but I just hope that it really reaches everyone because, these are our lived experiences every day that we question, are we enough? And what I said basically in that TED talk is, we are enough. We are already Samoan. We are already who we are as our culture, but we shouldn't stop learning. And that was the key that I guess I had been missing in terms of it doesn't stop at being enough. It stops when, when we finish life, I guess, because we're always learning. So we shouldn't ever think that we already know enough or know the max. So that was really cool to share that message and to now know that it's reaching globally as well.
Can you tell us more about reconnecting with your culture and language?
Yeah, I think, my really early experiences was of being Samoan was growing up not immersed in the language or the culture because we moved up to Auckland, and trying to have these conversations with my grandpa and my grandma and just going to mum and dad like, I don't know what they're saying. Like I can't actually have a conversation with them. And that was really heartbreaking, to just see the confusion, the blank stare on their face and just be like, you're my grandpa and I know you love me, but I don't understand you. And that language barrier played a huge part in how I felt as a Samoan, but also, who I thought I was, especially when it came to my family. And so I know that, often our elders say it out of love to learn our language, but it's really hard to learn your language, especially if you didn't grow up around it. And for me, that was what I had, didn't really have the culture around me. Had my family, yes, but growing up in Auckland where it's so diverse, it's so easy to lose our language. And I think we forget the challenges that our older generations have faced in retaining their language and culture. So, now embracing the Siva, I would never Siva when I was younger. Polyfest, yeah, that's when I first did my Siva. But now, man, it's like I've had many opportunities to do a Siva, and sometimes it's just, well, one time I was at the Josh Satofi concert, the other time I was in Budapest, Hungary. So every day I realized just how much of a joy our Siva Afi is, and our Siva Samoa. It's just, it's really what grounds me now and what gives me strength because I remember where I come from. And what I say is that I come from a big village, so I can never be made small because if I come from greatness, I am greatness. So that's really cool. And I think that's how it shaped me, it's who I am, it's what I'm a part of. I'm still learning it nonetheless, but it doesn't mean that it's not already mine. And it's mine to embrace, it's mine to learn, and it's my responsibility to, yes, be humble, but also just be proud because gone are the days now where we're embarrassed to be Samoan. It's here and now where we truly celebrate our cultures and put them on the world stage because they deserve to have as much recognition as any other Indigenous culture, because it's such a trivial time. It's important that our Indigenous peoples celebrate within each other, celebrate within their communities, celebrate with each other, and celebrate as a collective.
Your recent trip to Budapest, Hungary looked amazing. Could you share a little bit around what you were getting up to?
Mm. So out of it. I had the real big privilege of being able to go to Budapest, Hungary. Literally, shout out to Rangatahi Leadership Opportunities Database. They advertised it on their database, and I just clicked on it one day. Got the time zone wrong, so I had to stay home from church and complete the application within like the final hour. And so when completing the application, they had asked, what is one community that you would love to serve, or you can see yourself creating change in? And one of my committees that I serve on, Pacifica Fusion, was one that had the privilege of being involved in. Just this year, I just started on the committee, and having learned from my elders and having so many learnings from my cultural background, I decided to represent them. And so it was such an honor to have their blessing and approval and their backing as I went over to Budapest, Hungary. So went over, was representing Pacifica Fusion, so Palmy and Pacifica to the world, and also Aotearoa, New Zealand. And I went over there. It was my first international solo flight. I barely made it alive. Some of the kids were complaining about 8-hour flights, and I was like, I've just spent 33 hours traveling the world, so shush, because that was crazy. The 17-hour flight from Auckland to Dubai, I vomited on the plane. I had migraines. I was trying to do my assignment. Oh, I was going through it, and I cried when I landed in Dubai. I couldn't believe I'd made it out. So even the journey there was buzzy. But going to Budapest, just want to give a huge shout out to Asia Europe Foundation. What an amazing opportunity to have our young leaders come together across the world. And so grateful to have learned more about Society 5.0, which in my eyes is very advanced. I don't know if we're there yet, but I think it was such an eye opener to the international opportunities that our youth have the privilege of being a part of, but also the huge gaps of diversity that were very evident as soon as I went into the room. I was the only Pacific woman, the only one to be from Aotearoa at that specific trip. Um, and like some people didn't even know where I was from. The only reference I was getting was Moana. And I was like, be for real right now, because we have more than Moana, but period. Shout out Disney, because without Moana, they would have thought I was something else probably. And just, learned so much, grew so much, made so many amazing friends from around the world. And then, decided to rep 685, took my little flag, waved it around, cheer-hooed a lot, and did this amazing siva that I had actually borrowed and represented from Horowhenua College in Levin, shout out, one of our Pacifica participating schools this year. They did a beautiful siva, and I saw it and I was so inspired I decided to do it again. That was an amazing opportunity to rep both initiatives, but also just show them what Samoa is made of and what Aotearoa is made of, because I'll say the global north, even though Aotearoa is a part of it, definitely has a biased perspective of what the global south is made of. And so to show them, who we are and represent that was a huge responsibility, but one that I took and made the most of. And coming home, can't believe I made it, but just so honored to have had the opportunity to learn, but also to challenge, those conversations in the room. There's a lot of conversations and opportunities that I've been a part of that people won't often realize, whilst they're good opportunities, they're also quite challenging. You really have to stand strong in your roots and who you are, because when the time comes to speak, we speak. When the time comes to dance, we dance. We never hold back, because time is precious. So very grateful.
What was your one main takeaway from the summit?
Yeah, funnily enough, it was those big adult lessons that you learn. You kind of knew as a kid, but you realize that it's reality and you have to accept it. Well, I learned that you'll never have the perfect team and that diverse perspectives are always going to happen, whether you like it or not. And the reason why I learned that over there was because we had all come from both the Asia region, the Europe region, and then for me, the Pacific region. I had one other buddy, shout out Nathaniel from Australia, but we were it. Like, and when I went over there, it was like so. Everyone's opinions and perspectives were so different that it became really obvious to me what diversity and inclusion truly meant. Because it's one thing to have diversity and inclusion within a country where you're all in the same context, but when you come from completely different environments, cultural backgrounds, economic backgrounds, financial backgrounds, and just social backgrounds, it was so different, but also quite similar in a lot of ways. So I came back and I said to Dad, I never get the perfect team, will I? I'll always have to work with those annoying people, but also some really amazing people. And so, yeah, that was my big girl lesson. And from that, I learned that diversity is a strength, but having inclusive approaches is really tough, because you really have to consider who's in the room and also how you approach that. And I was really blessed to be recently inducted into the Asian New Zealand Foundation Leadership Network. And that workshop and induction really showed me how to be diverse and inclusive, and just really be participant centered. And yeah, that was kind of my biggest learning from that, because it's so different over there in Budapest, Hungary, and also just in the Europe and Asia region. Sorry. And so I think for me, just taking away, so important to have diversity. It's not easy, but it's so important, because without it, we'll never get the full picture. But also, we miss those perspectives that reflect the society that we live in today.
Can you share some of your challenges or difficulties that you've had on your journey?
A lot of people see the glory all the time, but there's a lot of struggle and weight that comes with these opportunities, even though they're really amazing and I learn a lot from them. As a young Tamaita'i Samoa, I face countless challenges in not only my identity and just being able to convey that, but also there's some things that, our Indigenous peoples will only get it with our Indigenous peoples. Like, there's some things that you can just never get unless you're like from that context or have grown up in that culture. And it's really tough to try and convey those or explain those to others. And then further from that, actually advocate for policies or processes that include our perspectives or where we come from. And so I think for me, it's always been, realizing that at the end of the day, we're all learning, but also when I go into those rooms, I set the precedent for what others do. And I'm so grateful for Latavia, my dear sister, who taught me, we don't just ask for money. We don't just ask them to pay for us because we want to get paid. We set the precedent for every other young Pacific woman that enters those rooms and how they treat them, because we were never made to be, a doormat or to serve others just for the sake of others' benefit. We were also made to be leaders, and strong Pacific women that hold the standards of what we truly are, because rewriting the narrative doesn't only mean changing the perspectives of others, it also means changing the foundations of where those perspectives comes from, and that ultimately means challenging the status quo, challenging the processes that benefit those who have always benefited, and really trying to help them understand too where we're coming from. So definitely heaps of challenges, still learning how to balance the grace and eloquence with the straight fire, straight up blunt, ones. But it's something that I'm really grateful for to be doing at a young age, and hopefully we'll continue to learn. But I'm so grateful for the examples that have taught me what it means to be in those rooms. Even going to St. Cuthbert's College, I had to quickly learn how to advocate for myself, but also how to stand strong, because we have some amazing young girls in there, but I was also a Pacific young girl, and that was very different to what some of the other girls came from or who they were. So it's not to say that diversity makes it harder, but it's a strength. But you just have to stand strong in your roots and know who you are, because others don't. And if they don't know, they don't know. So it's our job to, yes, teach them, but also bring them along in the journey.
Heard about some of the great things you've been up to this year, but in your spare time, how do you wind down?
Well, outside of my mahi, I love to do the human things of eating, resting, sleeping. I've learned the hard way that those are literally ride or die. You either ride it out until you die, or you just end up dying on the spot. So I've found that there's activism and rest, activism and joy. There's activism and more things than just activism in the sense that we're always fighting, always advocating, always doing these things. So, yeah, I've learned the hard way to turn the switch off, but also to find passion in other things. I'm currently doing a Kmart loop hatch thingy, the cushion. You know how like our grandparents would have done it like those rugs and stuff, how you make them with the loops. Yeah, currently doing one of those. So kind of entering my Nana era, but also my like arts and crafts era, which is really, really cool because, as we grow older, those are things that we put away and that we forget to invest into because um, I'm realizing now too that our health is so crucial and important to our well-being, but also to how we show up in our mahi and our spaces that we are in. Also love spending time with my cat. He's my son, and I love him, and I'll spoil him until the very end. So yeah, big cat mom, proud cat mom, and also yeah, spending time with family. I've always been a family girl, but just really soaking up these memories now that I'm older and realizing just how precious my family is. Not only in how they've played such a big role in my life, but also that they're like my best friends and my day one supporters. So really acknowledging their hard work through quality time and just being happy and being joyful in those moments.
Do you have any advice for anyone who's interested in getting involved with advocacy?
I honestly would say like you are already more than enough. You bring so much value to the rooms and spaces that you go in, even now, and you know you can do it too. To me, opportunities are limitless, and age is just a number. We're all learning, and the worst that anyone could say is no. So just ask those questions. I've had so many opportunities come up. But some I haven't been able to afford. It's been really tough being a student, and growing up in South Auckland, there was huge financial differences between me and the opportunities that I was in. But we were so blessed to have, I was blessed to have my mom and my dad who advocated for me when I couldn't advocate, but also learning from them, learning how to advocate for myself. So, it is never too early, it is never too late. But just know that you are already more than enough, and that because of the people around you, the people that ground you, and the people that support you, you can do it too. So, yeah, I was blessed to have people in my life that would cheer me on, recognize my potential when I didn't even see it myself, and put me forward for things that I didn't think I deserved. And so, every opportunity that has come my way was definitely not my own efforts. It's been the collective that has helped support me. So, I would just say, know that you're amazing. Know your why as well, because when the days get tough and things get hard, you have to have some reason that keeps you going. And for me, it's always been honoring my grandparents and my parents and seeing their legacies and creating a better tomorrow. So I want to do that too. And that's ultimately what's kept me driving. But I would just say, it's a lot. Not better, but I'll just say it's a lot more accessible now to have opportunities in terms of the online resources, digital resources, and I'd say we're definitely making some moves in the industries of making things more accessible. It's still hard. There's no dialing that down, but just have a go. And you know what? Sometimes you just have to learn while you're going and fake it till you make it. Because yeah, everyone's on a learning journey. So don't even feel like you're ever underqualified. Don't ever feel like you're ever too young. If you don't try now, then you'll never know until later, right? So, yeah, my first opportunity was St. Cuthbert's College. I was in year 6, and my recent opportunities, I'm 22, so technically I'm still young. But yeah, I'll just say, just ask, because a lot of opportunities for me have come from asking.
Leilani, it's been awesome speaking with you today. How can our listeners get in touch with you online? What platforms are you available on?
Oh, thank you. It's not often I get to plug myself in a podcast episode. Bless. You can contact me for sure. Always up for a talanoa or a conversation with you. Always keen to make connections. So my social media platforms is usually Leilani Faaiuaso. And the spelling will be in the description, I'm sure. So yeah, no need to do that. But you can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok. Facebook if you're my friend or family. And or you can email me. I'm sure my details are somewhere around. But yeah, please definitely reach out. I'm not a stranger. I'm just another little girl trying to change the world. So yeah.
It's been awesome sharing time with you today, Leilani. Thank you so much. For your event that's coming up next week, would you like to share some more details about it?
Yes, thank you. I've got a workshop coming up next Tuesday, the 26th of November, from 5:30 to 7:30 at night, so PM, New Zealand time for anyone listening globally. And it is online on Zoom. I try to make it as accessible as possible, and just making sure I can include everyone. I've already got amazing 40 people coming along, so youth and youth supporters, who range from all ages, literally as young as 12 now to 54, which is really, really cool. And so this is an opportunity for everyone. You've heard a bit about my journey, but here's how you can have your journey, and it's a chance to empower you, get you in the room with other amazing people, just to learn about where can I find opportunities? How do I know my worth, and how do I negotiate in opportunities? And then finally, how can I say yes to the right opportunities? So, really looking forward to breaking those all down, and just really equipping everyone in our communities with the right skills and knowledge, because it's one thing to have an opportunity, but it's another thing to make the most of it. And so hopefully I can pass on my knowledge and my experience and just help out other young people, but also our parents and our families and communities who support them as well. So really looking forward to running that. If you want to come along, it's also on my social medias, and you can sign up and register there. But please, like I said, you're never too young, you're never too old, so come along if you want.
Whawhitai tele lava. Thank you, Leilani, for joining us today on the podcast. And thank you all for listening in. Don't forget to join us again soon for another episode of What's in Your Kete.